One of the things that people in our neighborhood always comment on is the lack of buildings, the great amount of open space. And oftentimes we have to explain to them that part of the reason of open space is people leave and depart, and no one wants to come back with all the stereotypes of our city and of our neighborhood. And so there's all this empty space. But there's another component to that as well. And part of that has to do with environmental racism. And the idea that since nobody wants to live there, nobody meaning just they don't want to live here, we get dumped on, literally. And that there are spillages of lead and all sorts of other kind of contaminants all across our communities. And so that is what raised our ideas of how do we live in this earth. We didn't come at it from the perspective of a global perspective. We didn't come at it from the perspective of recycling or of our carbon footprint. We just wanted a safe place to live. We wanted clean soil where we live. We wanted trees where we live. We wanted an environment that's beautiful to look at and that smells good and that feels good to be in. Part of what we did to do that is we basically took over some city property which we later purchased next to our building. That land is filled with lead. There's a significant amount of lead in that soil, which means it's unsafe to grow in the soil as it is. So we decided, well, we can use whatever God gives us. And so we went around our neighborhood and we picked up tires and we picked up pieces of old doors and we picked up old fences and we picked up milk crates and we picked up old bottles and liquor bottles and all those kinds of things. And we picked them up and started to use them and started to create the garden and the space for growing that we knew we saw. But we just couldn't do in the traditional ways, in the easy ways that we wanted to do. And so from there we created, this vision came from one member in particular, a vision that became shared by the rest of the church, but more importantly the community and the neighborhood that seized on it. And in merely a year we've created a spirit garden where we grow things above the ground, away from the contaminants, and at the same time putting in plants obviously not for eating, that destroy the contaminants that are in the soil and that alleviate the soil from the literal poisons that have been put into it. And so we've decided that just because something is labeled unusable or ugly or inappropriate, or we've decided that's not a reason to leave it alone. That's in fact an extra reason to become involved, especially when it's in your own neighborhood and in your own community. And to take control of that and realize that we have the power to do that. And we're not waiting for somebody else. We're not waiting for the city. We're not waiting for the EPA or someone else like that. We are our community. We have the power to change that and understand that power that comes from, we believe, from Acts, where Jesus says, you will receive power from on high when the Holy Spirit comes upon you. And we take that and we run with it. And so whatever the Holy Spirit puts in front of us, we will do. And that's why we care about the environment. Not simply for the perspective of a democratic vote, but from the perspective that we need a clean community where kids are playing. And we don't want them playing on lead-contaminated soil. As pastor, I welcome you to Spirit of Hope, where we are leading lives of hope and love in our city as followers of Jesus Christ. We worship every Sunday at 11 o'clock with a praise team, and where you can come simply as you are. We are an opening and welcoming community to people who identify themselves as lesbians, gay, bi-attractional, transgender, same-gender loving, queer, intersex, or wherever you find yourself. We welcome you to come and partake in a community where we don't just come to be loved, but we come to love others and to serve our community as well. We welcome you to participate in anything from our preschool to our food pantry, our soup kitchen to our spirit farm, our youth ministries to our simply living in our community and serving in our residence council. We invite you simply to come and learn who you are and what God has in store for you at Spirit of Hope. We're located at the corner of Martin Luther King and Trumbull in the city of Detroit at 1519 Martin Luther King Boulevard. You can find us on the web at spiritofhopedetroit.org. We hope that you'll come along.